and indiscriminately, illegally, then Bangladesh is staring right back at us, because that's where the International Crimes Tribunal, nothing international about it, it's just a fancy appellation, has ordered the death penalty to ousted Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and two senior aides for committing crimes against humanity during the July 2024 uprising. The former Prime Minister called the verdict rigged and politically motivated. Two were killed, in fact, as massive clashes broke out in several parts of Bangladesh, including capital Dhaka, after the International Tribunal's death penalty ruling. The Awami League had called for a nationwide shutdown today and has dared that the war against the interim extremist Yunus government will continue till he steps down. Now, I have with me Sheikh Hasina's son with us, Sajeeb Wazed. Thank you very much for making the time, Mr. Wazed. I know these are difficult times for you, but I want you to first tell us, why is it that you believe that this particular process of trying your mother for alleged war crimes is ultra-virus of law?
No, thank you very much for having me. First of all, I mean, it is ultra-virus in so many ways. First of all, the regime itself is unelected, unconstitutional, undemocratic. So they have the regime has no legal basis. Then, in order to try her under this tribunal, because this tribunal was set up in 1973 to try the war criminals from our War of Independence. That was its entire scope. In order to try her here, they had to amend the laws and allow the trial in this tribunal so that it could be expedited. However, laws can only be amended by parliament, and there is no parliament. So that the legal basis for trying her at this tribunal itself is illegal. Then they would not let her appoint her own lawyers. Our lawyers were not allowed to even go to the courts. The courts appointed their own lawyers. The judges at this court, 17 judges were terminated right before this trial, and new judges were appointed, some who had no experience as being a judge and who were completely politically biased. So the outcome was preordained. We all knew what the verdict was going to be, and the entire trial was finished in 140 days, which is unprecedented.
So some victims and families of the student uprising have called this a moment of justice. But many also say the tribunal established by your mother's government raises questions of fairness. Do you support some form of, or do you respond to calls for independent international investigations into the 2024 crackdown?
Of course, we have always welcomed that. Our government itself had appointed a judicial panel to investigate all killings. But here again, you have had trials only for the killings, deaths of students and protesters. But at the same time, hundreds of police officers were killed. And then continuing, even after our government stepped down, hundreds of our party activists were killed. And there have been, not only have there been no investigation or charges or trials for police killings and killings of our activists, this regime, that means there's only been justice for the killings of protesters, but justice has been forbidden for the police officers and for our party activists. That is not justice.
Okay. How do you navigate now the diplomatic risk between India and Bangladesh? Your mother is, of course, here in India. And there are demands now from Dhaka of Delhi to hand her over. How do you navigate this? India, of course, at this moment remains non-committal.
Well, actually, India cannot legally send back my mother. For a treaty to be enforceable, you have to demonstrate that the legal process in the country followed international standards. Now, those standards have not been met for all of these reasons. If nothing else, the regime itself is illegal. So India is under no legal obligation to send my mother back. In fact, India has a legal obligation that because the process was so ultra-virus that it cannot send back my mother. Amnesty International has called these trials not fair and a farce. Human Rights Watch has called these trials unfair. And so you have international organizations now saying that these trials were not free and fair. She did not get due process.
Now, Mr. Majid, I want to ask you this because this is a question that is often posed. Why is it that we're not seeing a greater concert of democracies and world leaders speaking up for Sheikh Hasina? What's going wrong?
I think that over the years, there's probably been, I don't think anyone has that much attention on Bangladesh at the moment. You've got the war in the Ukraine going on, you've got other conflicts rising, you've got trade wars. I think everyone's attention is a little diverted at this point.
That's what you really believe? You think that it's because everyone's, it's not because they don't believe that Sheikh Hasina is innocent?
Look, the international media, the Western media, was quite involved in portraying a very negative image of my mother. That, of course, has had an impact. But if you look at Bangladesh, the majority of the people of the country are very much opposed to this verdict. You've had 102 prominent journalists write a letter condemning this verdict. You've had 100 prominent doctors write a letter condemning this verdict. You've had 1,000 school teachers write a letter condemning this verdict. You've had lawyers protesting outside of the courts, protesting this verdict.
Mr. Wazed, what next? I know that when other politicians in the subcontinent, for example, have had to flee their countries, especially those that were ruling their countries, like Ms. Bhutto or even General Pervez Musharraf and so on and so forth, at some point, they have found a way to return. What is Sheikh Hasina planning to do? Is there any room for reconciliation? Can she return? Will she want to return?
No, she definitely wants to return, and she will return. With this current regime, there is no scope. They are basically backed by the Jamaat-e-Islam, the Islamists who opposed the creation of Bangladesh. Their goal was at first to change the constitution and turn Bangladesh into an Islamist state. But because of public pushback, they were not able to do those. They were not able to achieve those goals. So now their goal is to have this one-sided election so that then at least they can bring the Islamists to power and still continue on their goal of Islamizing the country and keeping out the progressive secular parties. Awami League is the largest one, but they've also excluded the other secular progressive parties, such as the third largest party, the Jatiyo Party.
Right.
That is why for them it is so critical to have this sham election. And that is why it is also so critical for us to stop this sham election. And I think that is something that the international community is certainly concerned with.
Okay.
This regime has released hundreds of convicted terrorists, all the terrorists that our government caught and convicted and sentenced to jail. They have released them from prison. Lashkar-e-Taiba is operating freely in Bangladesh right now. Links have been found to the recent bomb attacks in Delhi to Lashkar-e-Taiba in Bangladesh.
Okay.
So the national community is becoming very concerned about this.
Well, all the best in your endeavors, Mr. Wazed, to seek rehabilitation. Thank you very much. Hope we can speak again under more propitious circumstances. Thank you very much for talking to me.